This video is sponsored by Surfshark. G'day fellas. In this video we're going to be talking about the cost of Age of Empires 4. Earlier this year at E3, it was announced that Age of Empires 4 would be releasing in October this year and that the cost of the game was going to be 60 USD. The community reaction to this was adverse. People definitely weren't happy with the pricing of Age of Empires 4, and I was one of those people. I guess I just couldn't understand exactly why they would make a game have such low specs to run at a bare minimum, but at the same time price it at $60. It's incredibly expensive. If you think about it from a holistic approach, when they sat down and said, alright, we're going to make a sequel to Age of Empires, what should it be like? They would have had an idea on the graphic style that they wanted to go with, as well as an idea on pricing at the very beginning of the decision-making process. So if this game had graphics that looked like Crysis, then I could completely understand why you might target it towards a $60 end, because the type of person who's going to pay $60 for a game is going to be able to afford a computer that can actually play those graphics. But with Age of Empires 4, it's a little bit different, because you've got a game that costs $60, but the requirement to actually play the game are specs that you wouldn't even expect to see on games 5 years ago, let alone a game being released in 2021. So why is Age of Empires 4 so expensive? Now, keep in mind, I'm not actually a representative of Microsoft. I don't work with them. I don't have any sort of back ends that I can talk to them about this sort of stuff. But when it comes to my knowledge or my understanding of the way in which they market the game and the way in which they're looking at the game, well, I've got a pretty proven track record when it comes to my history. I'll give you a couple of examples. Before Age of Empires 4 was even announced, I was onto them. They put things down, I pick them up. I made this Reddit post more than 3 years ago. I predicted when Age of Empires would release. I predicted the marketing strategy that they would employ before the release of Age of Empires, specifically releasing definitive editions for the game, releasing DLCs along the way before eventually releasing Age of Empires 4. And so far, I've been on the money every single time. So let me tell you exactly why Age of Empires 4 is so expensive. 3 small words. Xbox Game Pass. Let me explain it for you. Xbox Game Pass is a subscription-based service. Think of it kind of like Steam, but essentially you pay a recurring fee every single month, and then you just get to pick whatever game you want to play whenever you want to play it. At this point in time, there's more than 100 games on Xbox Game Pass, including games like Halo, Forza, and Gears of War. One of the things that you need to understand when it comes to marketing a service like this is it's very hard to do it from the ground up. There's a concept called grandfathering, and Steam is essentially the grandfathered service. They've existed from the beginning of time, really. I talked to my dad, I talked to his dad. You know, we all talk about how when we were children, we all had Steam growing up. No, but seriously, Steam has been around for a really long time, and it's so hard to overwhelm or overcome a behemoth like Steam. So the way that industry does it, they have to incentivize you going on there as a user, because you're not just going to download it and start using it and start paying $10 a month or $15 a month, however much it is. So if you take a look at the Epic Game Store, one of the ways that they got people to adopt the Epic Game Store was to release free games on there every fortnight. So people started downloading that storefront just so they could get the free games. And what do you know? We see traction and more people start using it, start buying games on there. And over the course of a year and then eventually 2 years, now their numbers are looking incredibly healthy. So one of the ways that Microsoft has determined that they can attract people over onto this storefront is to get Age of Empires on there. Now, Age of Empires 4 is going to be available day one in the Xbox Games Pass. That means if you buy the game outright or if you have a subscription to the Xbox Games Pass, that you're still going to be able to play it at the exact same time. Now, it's really hard to convince people just to go and adopt something brand new. Can you imagine if a social network just sent you an email and said, hey, we know that you use Facebook, we want you to start using this social network instead? Well, you're just going to laugh at them. And that's often the response that startups get in industry. And I'm sure you're probably sitting there wondering, okay, but what does this have to do with them pricing Age of Empires 4 at $60 US? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, let me stop beating around the bush. Microsoft don't want you to buy Age of Empires 4. They want you to become a subscriber to Xbox Games Pass. And this is how they're going to do it. Because at the moment, you can do a trial on Xbox Games Pass. It's a 1-month trial, and it only costs $1. Of course, you've got to put in your credit card number or your bank card number or whatever it is, but it only costs $1. And then after that first month is gone, well, now you've got to start paying $10 a month or $15 a month, whatever it is in your local currency, and it's not going to be such a big hit for you. Because all of your friends have now downloaded Age of Empires 4 on the Xbox Games Pass. They've probably downloaded Forza, they've probably downloaded Halo, and if you were to stop your subscription to Xbox Games Pass, you'd have to pay $60 for Age of Empires 4, you'd have to pay $60 for Halo, $60 for Forza, and that's a lot of money. It's just a lot easier for you to just continue subscribing because, hey, new games are coming out all the time. And that's exactly why they've priced Age of Empires 4 so expensively, because they've said, if we price it expensively, people aren't going to buy it and they're going to go, oh wait, we can use the Xbox Games Pass instead. If they priced Age of Empires 4 at $20, do you think they'd even get half the amount of people going to the Xbox Games Pass? Of course not. People are genuinely going to look at this as an option for them. I think that there's still going to be people out there who buy Age of Empires 4. Most likely those people, though, are going to be fans of the series, people who have played the game for years and years, and people who are planning to play the game for years and years more. But for the majority of people who look at the game and say, oh, Age of Empires 4, that looks like a cool game, let's give it a go, they're going to get Xbox Games Pass, they're going to be playing the game for a month or two, and then they'll move on to the next hotness. And that's a normal part of gaming. Another point that I will touch on briefly, let's not forget about Age of Empires Online. They made the decision to completely forego Steam and say to every single user, you must use Games for Windows Live. And that was just another nail in the coffin of Age of Empires Online. Even back in 2010 when Age of Empires Online was in beta, I remember posting on the forums and literally saying, if you do not add this game on Steam, it is going to fail. Now, even if they did add it on Steam, it probably would have failed anyway, sure. But it's good to see that Microsoft has really learnt from its mistakes in the past and acknowledges that it can't tackle Steam, the behemoth, just simply by going, hey, you are going to play it on my platform. They offer you an alternative, and it's not just any alternative, it's a reasonable alternative. Sure, they've overpriced their game, $60, I'll definitely agree that's overpriced. But at the end of the day, they're giving you an alternative, and that's Xbox Game Pass. So when it comes to the way that Age of Empires 4 is priced, I don't necessarily agree with it. But I do understand the strategy, and I hope that Microsoft begin to market this specific thing a lot more, because with the exception of my very small group of friends, I've really not heard this perspective talked about at all. And to me, this really explains why Microsoft has priced the game the way that it currently is. Especially when you consider the fact that pretty much any computer that is out on the market right now is going to be able to play Age of Empires 4 without too much of a hitch. And speaking of computers, do you have a computer? Do you care about your safety online? Well, I sure as heck hope that you are using a VPN. You know, a lot of people come to me and they say, Drongo, what's the best way I can protect my personal information? I tell them, look, Steve, you might think that that brown paper's stopping me from seeing what's really going on, but the truth is I know exactly what you're doing back there. But if you had a VPN installed, I'd have absolutely no clue what was going on. And that's exactly why I use a VPN every single day of the year. In fact, I've used a VPN for the last 5 years, and I'm probably going to continue to use a VPN for the rest of my life, just simply because I can't trust my government with my data, and you shouldn't either. In addition to being an amazing part of 21st century security, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do with it. As an example, how do you think I got this price for Age of Empires 4? Well, you see, I used a VPN to get to the United States and showed you the price. The actual real price for me is $100. Get wrecked, Australia. But you know when Australia doesn't get wrecked? When they're using a VPN and they're watching Netflix and they change to another country. But with the exception of that, they're pretty much getting wrecked every other time. So fellas, if you're looking for a way to improve your security online and also a way to help me out as a creator, I encourage you to use the code DRONGO with Surfshark for 83% off and an extra 3 months for free. Of course, I'll leave a link down in the description if you're interested in seeing that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.